This is a comprehensive timeline of our hops yard so that anyone who wants to know how we put it together or replicate it for themselves has the knowledge at their disposal. We ordered our hops from Great Lakes Hops. We got four varieties: Cascade, the industry standard; Comet, an older hop used in a lot of American lagers; Galena, one of the earliest bittering hops; and Tahoma, a more resistant hop. In order to grow hops, they have to have something to wrap around and grow up. Our basic idea was to have two posts for each row, a wire connecting them at the top, a fibrous rope tied at the top for each plant, and bamboo at the bottom that the ropes tie to give more support. To create the posts, we used 2x4s that we held together with wood glue and screws. We used clamps to hold the posts together as the wood glue dried, and we used the empty space in our high tunnel to build them. The posts were 20 feet tall before they went in the ground, 17.5 feet after. On April 4th, we drilled holes for everything that needed it in the field using a post hole digger. This included the holes for us to put the posts for the hops in. Poles, again, were 17.5 feet tall. The space between them, where the hops grow, is 24 feet, and the spacing between the rows is 10 feet. In terms of how far the hops are spaced apart in each row, we have 8 plants per row spaced about 3 feet apart. After drilling the holes, we took some time to put the posts in the ground. So in the meantime, we covered over the holes with pieces of tarp to protect them from flooding in the rain. With 24 feet from post to post, the wire connecting between them needs to be at the very least 24 feet long. The way we did it, however, was adding enough extra wire on the end to allow us to release some of the tension and lower the hops. This makes harvesting easier as well as replacing any of the rope that gets tied to it. In order to do this well, based on the height of the posts, both ends need to have at least 12 feet of extra wire, meaning that in total, the length of the full wire should be about 48 feet. To keep tension on the wire, we added a nail at about 5 to 6 feet above the ground for the end of the wire, which we twisted into a loop to hook onto. We did this at both ends. As well, in order to keep the wire from loosening too far, we added a washer that is held onto the wire with an oval sleeve. When letting the wire down, we tie a rope at each end in order to be able to reach the end of the wire and pull it taut once again. On April 25th, we put the posts in the ground, filling the rest of the space in the holes with dirt and pressing it down to ensure the hold was stable. This is what it looked like when all the posts were up and the wires were connected. We tilled the ground on April 27th to prepare for planting on May 1st. We organized the rows alphabetically, so the rows go Cascade, Comet, Galena, and Tahoma. We did 8 hops per row, each spaced 3 feet apart in their respective rows. At the base of each plant, we put a bamboo stake. Letting the wire down to do this, we tied 8 16 to 18-foot coconut fiber ropes about 3 feet apart on each wire before tightening the wire once again. We used a hitch knot to ensure the rope would stay on the wire with the weight of the hops. This is a diagram of a hitch knot. We wanted the string to reach down to the base of each of the hops plants so that they would have something that they could latch onto well as they grew. So once the wire is taut once again, pull the rope to the point where it still has a little bit of give and use electrical tape to attach it to the top of the bamboo pole. Now attached to the top of the pole, pull the rope taut for the length of the pole and tie the rope at the bottom. This is what the hops yard looks like with everything planted and all of the posts standing. The rope, as you can see, goes all the way from the wire at the top to the bottom of each of the bamboo poles. We put mulch around each of the plants, careful not to cover over the ends of the shoots. Hops grow with the sun, wrapping around whatever they grow near. The plant is made up of things called vines, different from vines. The difference is that vines will grow one direction, are typically smoother, and don't tend to wrap like vines do. Vines, on the other hand, have little hook like growths on them that help them latch onto things similar to a spider. They grow with the sun, wrapping around and up whatever they can latch onto. This does make them troublesome to work with, so I would recommend wearing gloves and long sleeves when working with them, as they can leave small cuts. This is a progression of the hops in 2023 from June 15th to August 4th. At the beginning of August, we had a huge storm that snapped one of the poles in our hops yard. We repaired the broken pole where it stood in the ground, holding the fallen half up while wood glue was added to the break, and 2x4s were attached on both sides using wood glue. Once everything was in place, we held everything together with clamps before adding screws to make it extra secure. August 15th was our first harvest of hops for 2023. The way you know hops are ready to be harvested is to peel back the outside and look for a yellowy powder. This powder is called lupulin. If the lupulin is noticeable, it's ready to harvest. Our expected yield for this year, using the data from the Hop Growers of America statistical report for 2021, for each crop was Cascade should have produced about 8 pounds, Comet should have produced about 8 pounds, Galena should have produced about 9 pounds, and Tahoma should have produced about 8 pounds. How the crops actually performed in their first year, however, Cascade and Comet far exceeded Galena and Tahoma. When the hops are ready to go for the year, let them die back. They should come back fresh next year. We used a mixture of herbicides, fungicides, and insecticides in 2023. The data we kept for that is on this slide.